The Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Wrestling with Johners, episode 289, getting ever closer to that milestone, episode 300. And I've got to be honest, I've had some big guests on this show over the last 4 or 5 years. Some big guests this year in 2023, the likes of that damn Dirty Dog G Money, Cara Noir in January, another big guy that my guest knows a little bit about, Bullet, of course. And the legendary Johnny Kidd joined us this month. Another big guest, Lizzie Evo and SoCal Val in the month of February, but they don't get much bigger than my guest today. The beast of Belfast, Big Damo. Damo, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
Thanks for that wonderful intro. You see, I put the name Big in, so people have to say it, you know. So
Exactly. And it just covers off my wonderful list of guests in 2023. But listen, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know we met just over a week ago in the electric ballroom, not the electric bathroom. I hate autocorrect on.
It was an awkward message. I was like, did we meet in the bathroom?
Yes, I hate autocorrect. So maybe that's another story for another podcast. But listen, thank you so much for joining us. And for anybody watching this live at home, I want to get in touch. I want to send Damo a question, any comments, any favourite moments or matches of Big Damo from over the years, then please get in touch. Send them through to us using your chosen device. They'll ping through to us, and we do our very best to bring them up live on screen during the course of this interview. But before we talk about wrestling, Damo, I know that you are a big advocate, a big supporter of a couple of Belfast-based charities, I understand. I'm going to bring up some pictures here, but West Wellbeing and, of course, the Welcome Organisation, two charities that you hold close to your heart, that you're heavily involved in, and you're a big advocate for. Tell us a bit about those two organisations and why they're so special to you, why you support them.
Absolutely. My sister Danielle, she's a professor in Queen's University in Northern Ireland, and she's been she's a professor in social work. So obviously she's very ahead of the game when it comes to the better charities, the better movements in Belfast. The Welcome Organisation is one that she's always continually came back to as being incredibly well put together. Like they've got a women's crisis centre, they've got a mobile unit, they have the most important part, is that they'll actually have medical units available and stuff like that as well as street teams, and they'll have drop-in centres and everything. So they do a ton of work in our community, and it's one of those things that to have these wonderful charities so close to home, and to when I think of how my life went and the luck I've had with where I was born at the time I was born and things like that, and the opportunities I've been able to have that other people haven't had, you know what I mean? And it's even people who've come in as immigrants and everything else, there's to have opportunities available is incredible. To help and give us that level of support. So I've been donating to the Welcome Organisation for a few years since my sister kind of let me know about it, and I've done my very best to for Christmas, for example, or even when I got married, my wife and I asked people to make donations as opposed to buying us presents. We don't need them, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
And the more aware that we've got, when it comes to things like this, the more we realize we're so blessed, you know what I mean? So we do our very best, and I wanted to then try and use a part of it with my current career, because places like yourself, you guys have so many reach so many people, so it's the perfect opportunity for me to, if people want to interview me or whatever else, then great. They put a little donation into either charity, and it's a way that we can we can all benefit, if that makes sense. And West Wellbeing is one that's something that I've been becoming more and more educated on over the last 10 years. Mental health affects every single one of us, and it's in the generation just before us. I almost feel it was seen as a sign of weakness to talk about or to try and work on your mental health. And I completely disagree. I think it's the complete opposite. Anybody who's willing to work on their mental health should be lauded, as opposed to what we see sometimes in the media. It's used as a way to as against people who waited to bury people almost. But I think it's the complete opposite, because we laud people who go to the gym to work out to get stronger, and I think it should be the exact same when it comes to mental health. And West Will being a phenomenal charity based in West Belfast, who figured out that there's this sad but incredible stat. The amount of people coming out of COVID who committed suicide was incredible. So they've really put their mark and really try and help the suicide prevention in Northern Ireland, in the city of Belfast, and doing their very best to create support. And they're working with a bunch of other charities across across Ireland and across the UK as well. And they're all trying to share information as best they can. And it is something that we're getting slowly better at, but it's something we need to get better at fast. And this is something that affects all of us. I've had friends who've done this even recently. Lionheart, based in Scotland, he sadly took his own life only a couple of years ago. And I was at ICW this weekend, and I've been to ICW a couple of times since I left WWE, and I think this is the first time it really hit me that he wasn't there. And it's things like that if he had this kind of support available, would there maybe have been any different decision? And we don't know, and this is why I'm hoping that for anybody who is in these kind of scenarios, who is having sadly awful thoughts and whatever else, that there is a support system near you. So if you are based in Belfast, and West Wellbeing is there, and I know that there's other charities very like this all across the UK, across Europe, across America. So this is the thing I've been saying to everybody. That extra pound, that extra £5 or $5, for the sake of a beer, you might save somebody's life. So for anybody who has donated already, thank you so much. And for anybody who's thinking about donating, please donate. And if it's not the ones in Belfast, if it's one in your local city, there's no problem at all. Any little helps.
Absolutely. And I've put the QR code up on screen. So if you're watching the video version of this, scan the QR code. It will take you through to their GoFundMe page. Go and donate today. Very, very important charity, along with the Welcome Organisation. I've just followed them on Twitter. There's a link on their profile page to take you through to their website. We can donate to them as well. It's all very simple, all very straightforward. Two great organisations supported by Big Damo and myself for today. But Damo, thanks very much for talking about those organisations and for coming on the show today. Let's talk a bit about wrestling, shall we? Let's talk a bit about wrestling. And the
Absolutely.
First thing I want to talk about is a very exciting match between yourself and Eddie Kingston coming up soon, Scrappermania VII, if I can read my Roman numerals. But coming up in just a couple of Saturdays' time, March 18th from the National Stadium in Dublin. Mate, that's going to be a banger, isn't it? I know that you faced Eddie probably about almost a year ago in Defy. So you're a bit familiar with Eddie, but like I say, time's moved on a bit. 12 months is a short period of time in pro wrestling. I think both of you have got the bit between your teeth now. That's going to be an awesome display, an awesome, dare I say it, a banger again for the fans in the National Stadium. Give us your thoughts on that one. We're less than 2 weeks away.
Absolutely. Listen, I've told the world that I respect Eddie Kingston as a performer, and you can see he's a fellow who stands by his principles almost to his detriment. Yeah. And there's definitely a part of me that respects that beyond belief. But in Seattle for Defy, he did get the better of me. So I definitely have a chip on my shoulder. I've got a monkey on my back. I've got every will and every intention to make sure that I bury him alive in Dublin. You know what I mean? I'll take him out for a beer afterwards. I promise. I'll look after. But when it comes to that ring, he will see a different side of Demo, because he's going to be in my country. He's going to be in OTT. This is not AEW. This is not Ring of Honor. This is not America at all. This is something entirely different. And he's going to see something very different. There's going to be a passion from the fans. But listen, this might be the first time in a long time for him that people are going to care a lot more about me than they are going to care about him. And that's going to be very interesting for him. But I'm really looking forward to it. Listen, he's an incredible performer. The two of us have quite a lot in common, and this is one of the things that drew ourselves to each other when we've met each other at shows. As I said, a huge amount of respect for him, but when it comes to Ireland, there's no way I can let the boy walk away from it with a victory. So yeah, very much looking forward to it. I promise I'll make sure I don't bury him too hard so that everybody can get a photo with him afterwards. But listen, he's a great lad, and I'm looking forward to tearing it up with him. We're gonna tear that roof off the place.
Absolutely. I don't know if the show's already sold out, but if it hasn't, go and check it out.
It's looking close. It's looking close.
Yeah, eventbrite.ie, where you can get your tickets, or just search it on Google. But that match is worth the price of admission alone. But I want to stick with OTT for a little bit, because they're a company that's very close to your heart, along with many others I'm sure we'll get to during the course of this interview. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but after coming out of WWE, I think they were the company that gave you your first indie booking, or one of your first indie bookings, certainly over here in the UK and Ireland, after leaving WWE. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So literally the timing was incredible. I was waiting for my 90-day to end, my 90-day window to end from my release with WWE, but I was also waiting for my green card to be finalized. So the timing was like dragging on, and there was almost no way to know when it was definitely going to happen. So OTT tried to book me. A bunch did try to book me around that period, and I really respect everybody who did. But you know, I had to be very vague, because I literally couldn't leave the country until, because I was I'm trying to remember what the name of the term is, but you know, I literally couldn't leave America, so I was waiting and waiting and waiting. But OTT stuck with me, and they were like, "Listen, if we can't make it happen, we'll figure something out." So I was really happy to be able to reward them with that. The very first appearance outside of WWE was with them, and it was awesome for me, because it meant I could see friends, family. Like there was, I because of COVID, I didn't get home for 2 years, so I just had this range of emotions. Touching down in Dublin, and I was like, oh, like, I didn't really know how to deal with it almost. You know what I mean? Because you know, 2 years is a long time, and like, you know, I was thinking about my family, like, you know, and all my friends, you know, my nieces, you know, like everything. Like, so there was just so much that was like, you know, going through my mind. But getting into OTT was cool, seeing all the lads and ladies I hadn't seen in a few years, and knowing that like we were on the other end of COVID definitely helped a lot, because like the Irish fans were so passionate, and they came out in droves, which is incredible, because I didn't know what to expect, because there'd been cancellations, there'd been problems, there'd been you know, lockdowns had restarted, and you know, in different parts of the UK. So I was like, oh Christ, I really hope this happens. And I got really lucky; it did happen. Then we went up to Belfast the next night. First time being in Belfast in 2 years. First time wrestling in Belfast in like 7 or 8 years, whatever it was. And I got maybe longer than that actually. And then I got to wrestle against Will Ospreay in the Aussie Open, who were both, you know, the three of them are this incredible stage in their careers. So I'm teaming up with the Kings of the North, two of my friends from Belfast. So it was again another emotional night for me. So you know, I'm like near shaking, you know, the next day, thinking about what I've just done, you know, because it's been so long. But it was an incredible experience. So like I've done my very best to remain as available for OTT as I possibly can, while also balancing the rest of my life and the rest of my dates, because you know, I want to do my very best to try and give back that little bit more to the Irish wrestling scene. I never came through the Irish wrestling scene. I had to move away. I moved to Scotland, and I started that way. But you know, I continually see these guys at different parts of the, you know, when I'm on my trip and my journey, I see people in Europe, or see them in the UK, or see them in America sometimes. And like, you know, I'm always delighted to see, you know, this crop coming through, and they're always the first to ask questions and ask for advice and stuff. So I want to do my very best to try and elevate them as best I can. And the fact that OTT have been absolutely killing it since COVID, they've been putting some serious numbers into buildings, which is absolutely amazing. And I understand how difficult that is. You know, I've seen it, you know, different companies who've really struggled, you know, in certain areas of the UK, because, you know, it's harder to get people out the door. But for some reason, OTT have just really nailed it. And you know, they run my hometown, so obviously that's a big deal to me. So you know, so I'm always going to be doing my best to be available for them. And I've only missed, I think, 1 or 2 Belfast shows since I've come out of WWE. So I'm doing my very best not to miss them. But I have sadly missed a couple. But this, you know, I'm going to be here for this entire weekend. You know, the 17th, 18th, and 19th of March. We start off in Wolverhampton at the Hangar, which is very cool. First time ever for me last, I think it was in January there. I think it was January. It was the first time I'd ever wrestled in Wolverhampton. It was very cool. We got this incredible amount of people who came out to see us. And then, you know, getting to work the National Stadium for the first time earlier on in the year was incredible. So going in there, you know, in a featured match, you know, with somebody as special as Eddie Kingston will be absolutely wonderful. And then the next night we're in Belfast, and I can guarantee this, you know, it won't be the hangover show in any way. It'll be the fireworks to end the weekend. That's exactly how we're gonna look at it. We're gonna do our very best to put on a show for everybody. So, and tickets are looking incredible all across the board. So if you are thinking about getting tickets, get them as soon as possible. But you know, honestly, OTT's been a lot of fun to get back to that. It's just such a talented roster. Like, you know, I'm seeing lads like LJ Cleary and stuff like that popping up everywhere. Like Fabio seems to be one of the next ones out who's kind of popping up as well. And like, you know, obviously I see Session with Martina all the bloody time everywhere. So, you know, I'm seeing all these guys everywhere, and it's been very cool. And I'm very excited for this next group coming through. Very, very talented. They've got a great school there. The School of Irish Wrestling in Dublin is incredible. They're just continually plucking more and more youngsters, you know, and getting them ready for the big time. And it's just, for me, it's mind blowing. It's like a conveyor belt of talent, and it's helping prop up the rest of the country. You know, there's just seemingly great lads coming out of so many areas, which is fantastic. So, you know, I've got a lot of passion for Irish wrestling right now. I'm doing my very best to be available as much as possible, and you know, this coming group of shows for Scrappermania will be incredible. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm very, very, very pumped for the future as well.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, OTT, they've given you some great opportunities. You've mentioned it there, but certainly over the last year and a half, I mean, you faced talent like, you mentioned United Empire, Cara Noir, Charlie Sterling, Adam Maxted, Sammy D, Leighton Buzzard, and their current champion Omari. And these would have all been, I suppose, when you were last on the UK Indies before WWE, but may not have already been on the scene by then. They may not have even started. So you're facing a fresh crop of talent, and including, you know, all around the UK, wherever you go, there's these fresh faces, but they're absolutely killing it. And it must be really exciting for yourself as an experienced pro that's, you know, been around, done everything, you know, worked in the big time, to come back onto the UK Indies and see all this exciting young talent and getting a chance to work with them, Damo. That must be almost like a fresh lease of life for yourself, and really exciting.
Absolutely, honestly, and it's everywhere I go. It's the same. You know, I'm seeing. It used to back in the day. You used to see like one or two. You know, everywhere you would go, you see one or two who are half decent. You know what I mean? And then as that evolved into 2014, 15, 16, it was like suddenly full rosters were super talented. And I feel that's how it's coming again. Like, and there's maybe not the same amount of eyes that are on the products, but everywhere, whether I go to Progress or RevPro or ICW or OTT, it's like I'm seeing a full roster of guys who I maybe didn't know about a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like I might have known a couple of them, and now I'm like, wow, this is nuts. He's good. She's good. This tag team's brilliant. And this is like every time I'm there, it's like, you know, when I was in Progress the first time in 2015, I think it was the first time I did Progress. Maybe it was 2014, whatever. It was the first time I realized, okay, this is the future, you know, where they try to get the very best from around the entirety of the country. But that's the way it kind of seems now. No matter where I go, I'm getting like a serious amount of like talent. I was at ICW there on Sunday, and it's like there's a lot of ones who were completely new to me, you know, that came out of different schools and things like that, who I didn't really know an awful lot about. And I was watching them the other day, and I'm like, Christ, there's a lot of talent there. And that's incredible. Like, you know, it didn't used to be like that. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. Even like, you know, 10 years ago, like 2012, 2013, it was starting to get better. But, you know, one or two lads here and there, you know what I mean? Maybe there'd be one decent girl, and you know, every 10 times over, or whatever it was, you know what I mean? But that would be it. Now I'm seeing all these people, and I'm like, oh my Christ, this is really good. Like, and OTT was, you know, my first kind of dipping my toe into the water. Then I remember thinking, it was one of the shows I was on. I think it was maybe the second show I was on. I was like, I have to follow this, Jesus. You know what I mean? So, and that's what happens a lot of the time. You know, the Progress show I just did there. The opener was Nick Wayne and Callum Newman, and they tore the roof off the place, and that was the bloody opener. So you're like, oh Christ on the bike. But that, you know, that's the sheer talent that's kind of kicking around now. That even the lads who aren't holding titles or they aren't in major storylines are, you know, they're not just there to prop up cards. They're there to really challenge for match of the night at all times. So, and I think that's incredible. And like, to be a fan right now, I understand there is a malaise. You know, coming out of speaking out, coming out of COVID, you know, missing the fact that so many people had left. And I understand all of those reasons. But if you're coming in now and you're just watching these shows, you must be going, holy shit, this is good, because it is. Like, one of the shows I watched recently, I literally sat there and went, bloody hell, that was good. You know what I mean? And like, that's, I can't remember saying that until right before the boom period of British wrestling. That was the first time I ever really noticed. I was like, yeah, this is something special. And then it created a massive boom period. I've every belief that like this could even be better. You know what I mean? Like, the talent,
it's definitely getting back there, sure.
the talent level's probably better. You know what I mean? It's just they're maybe not as popular yet, but that's just a matter of time. You know, I remember my own rise or whatever. You know, I remember like people in certain areas had no idea who I was, and then within a month, 2 months or whatever, like everybody knows who you are. And I think that's kind of the next stage for the group of young talent coming through now. Is just, I think once people get it, once they see it, they'll be like, oh shit, this is it, because this is as good as any other generation, if not better. And I hope that they become even better than that again. You know what I mean? And that is definitely the hope. And my job now is to, anybody who wants help, I'm right there for them. And it's like, I know people were tentative when I first came back, because I guess the way I look and stuff like that, people don't know how I'm going to be as a person, right? But I'm noticing that more and more people are starting to ask little things here and there, and you get the occasional person who's now messages me on a semi-regular basis. And that's the thing I've been trying to say is, like, myself and Axel Tischer and people like that, we're here for that reason. That is what our goal is for the immediate future, is to do our very best to help the next crop coming through, because there's going to be certain things that I'll see that you haven't seen yet, or that Axel sees that you haven't figured out yet. Because for me, like, it was Drew Galloway coming out of the WWE really helped me at a time when I needed that extra lift. Also, like, Fergal Devitt, when he was Prince Devitt over in New Japan, long before he was Finn Balor, he was absolutely killing it as in the junior division over in New Japan, and then he became like one of the top stars in the company. But we got to have him available to us during that rise, so we were getting to see his thought process and his philosophies on wrestling as we were kind of developing. So to have these people being able to talk to you while they're on their rise, so to speak, is so important, and it helps so much. And it just gives you this confidence. You know what I mean? I'm on the same show as that guy. So, you know what I mean? And that's what I want. I want people to, whether there's somebody comes in from America, or if it is just myself and Axel and whatever else, you're on that show with those people, so don't be afraid to ask. We're there for a reason, a very specific reason, and it's to help the show overall. So that also means helping you, helping the next crop. So, but I have noticed that a lot in the last while. I think people have been a bit more confident to ask, little things here and there, and advice and whatever else. And wherever I can give advice, I definitely will, because it's just it's ingrained in me. The people who help me get to live out my dreams, and so more than happy to pay it forward to the next generation.
Absolutely. And you mentioned ICW a moment ago, and a graphic that went live, I think, less than 24 hours ago is this one here. Yep. A big championship match coming up not too far around the corner, 14th of May for the ICW World Heavyweight Championship. You talk about guys that have really come up through the scene, and Leighton Buzzard, just a few years ago, he was Joe Hendry's cornerman. He's understudy. What he's done with his physical appearance and his wrestling style, and the time and the dedication and the determination that Leighton's put in. I've had him on the show, and a really, really great guy, but he is just 100%. And like I say, he deserves to be holding that world championship. But you got that match, a triple threat for the world championship in a couple of months' time, Andy Roberts included as well. And of course, a company and a championship you're very familiar with.
ICW, like, if it wasn't for ICW, there might never have been a big demo, because it was literally Billy Kirkwood, the ICW commentator, who christened me the Beast of Belfast. So it was very important to my rise, because that gave me that light bulb moment to really figure out how I wanted to be presented. And ICW gave me that opportunity. I'd been in and out, I'd done a couple of things for them, but it never really stuck. And I was always like, kind of in between gimmicks. I say this to people who are always asking me, like, how do I stand out, or how do I get new bookings and things like new places? And I'm always like, well, look in the mirror first and foremost. Put yourself in the shoes of the promoter. Like, why should they book you? And I had to have that long look in the mirror myself a long time ago, and decide, like, okay, I had short hair, I had stubble, I looked like everybody else. I was wearing gear that I thought was fine, you know what I mean? But none of it stood out. None of it was. I realized that if I was in their position, if I was in the promoter's position, I wouldn't book me. Yes, I'm good. Yes, I can do decent matches with people. But you've got a lot of people who can do that. So why should I bring this person down from where he lives tonight? You know what I mean? Yeah. So trying to explain that to people is you have to put yourself in those shoes. And I get very lucky. I started figuring out where I wanted to go next, and then I got on to ICW. They kind of wanted to change my name. I was wrestling with Damien O'Connor at the time, and I remember everybody called me Damo. It's my nickname. So Mark Dallas, I just want to call you Damo. Just see how that plays out. I was like, okay, I'll try it, see how it goes. At this point, I was big into my powerlifting, so I realized that about a month or maybe 6 months before that I had really big legs, right? So I started, I changed my look. I started wearing trunks instead of the singlets and stuff that I was wearing. And then Billy Kirkwood, he took it to the next level. He called me the Beast of Belfast. That was that light bulb moment. And since then, when I think about my rise from that moment was outstanding. You know what I mean? And then I was able to there you go. There's me in Belfast. I do take some really hilarious photos, but yeah, when it came to ICW, then I was with the company for a few years, and getting that opportunity in the main event scene, I was getting to work with the likes of Drew Galloway and all the lads, and then eventually my time came. I came up against Chris Renfrew in my home city of Belfast, so there's no way I could walk out without the title. So I ended up having this epic with Renfrew, and one of the coolest parts is the finish really resonated with people, and we were able to then go and have this fun reign as ICW champion. And when I look back, I recently did a couple of promos for ICW and had to go and research, who did I wrestle at that time and all these kind of things, and it brought back a lot of memories. But I wrestled some incredible people during that period, and again, another program with Drew Galloway was incredible. When you think where Drew Galloway is now, Drew McIntyre, sorry, you think where he is now, and the fact that we had him available for so long on the independents at that time was just outstanding. He was a hell of a locker room leader for all of us. He was brilliant for me personally. He got me a lot of work as well. People would ask him, who would you like to work with? He'd say, I'll bring in Big Damo. So and that's just really cool. To have it's a massive tip of the hat. It's a massive compliment. But it also made me want to work harder. You know what I mean? It made me want more. And I think he recognized that there was a determination in me, and a few of the guys there and the girls there. I think he recognized that, and he really helped push that. And there were times where I'd go to him and I'd be like, "What do you think?" And he'd be like, "Well, I think this," and I'd be like, "Right, sweet, I'll do it." and, things like that. So, but he was also so much fun and so given to work with. When one of the storylines we did, we got to work, myself, Drew, and Red Lightning, worked hand in hand to create the entire story, and it was one of the coolest experiences of my life, and it really helped for ICW to have something that was unique to us, that we're really into. All of us were really pushing to make count, and ICW gave us that little bit of freedom to tell that story, and we had so much fun. And people, this was the summer before I won the ICW, people believed I was going to beat Drew, and that's exactly what we wanted. We just wanted people to think it could happen, and thankfully they did. I remember the tweets and stuff I was getting at that point, and that's just remember people being devastated when I lost, and that was shit, that's pretty cool, that we can get to that kind of point.
But it was a whole journey, wasn't it, Damo? It was a whole journey. Incredible. Probably a two-year long storyline, and so many great opponents. But I would say that's when it gets to that crescendo and that championship match, and you finally, I'll bring up the pictures again, but when you finally kind of win the title, and I think that was probably the match there, looking a bit bloody, a bit beaten.
Yeah. I think that was my opponent's blood.
Maybe it was. It probably was, actually. But and then that's the big payoff. That's when it all. That's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what it's all about to be a pro wrestler, and that's what it's all about to be a wrestling fan. Is that payoff, that journey?
Absolutely, and Leighton Buzzard is in that position right now. And you were talking about his rise, and I literally, he posted a photo today where he was the skinny kid in his first day of training with ICW, and then you see the difference now, 6-7 years later. He came up while ICW was on that rise, and it was literally selling out every building every week. You know what I mean? And it's incredible that he now has that opportunity to step in while a lot of us left. And that has been a very difficult process, difficult transition. But for the likes of himself and Daz Black and Kez Evans, and there's a few others as well who are really pushing it right now, who are doing really, really well. And it's difficult for fans to compare the two, you know what I mean? But if you watch the quality of the matches, there is no difference, you know what I mean? If anything, it might be even better. So it's just convincing the fans that this is great, and you just need to come and enjoy it as well. You can kind of see that, like when we were in the Asylum the other day, it was brilliant because the match started with Leighton Buzzard, and Buzzard really pro me, but by the end of the match they were really pro Leighton, and I thought that was really cool. That was a really cool experience, and that's what it's all about. My job is to try and make guys like Leighton look even better, you know what I mean? And that's the hope that we can do that. So, and Leighton for all of it, like, he's the one who has to be that plucky underdog and has to make people believe that he can win. And he did a hell of a job. And, we had a lot of fun in there, and looking forward to wrestling him again. That match in May will be incredible. But this time, there's going to be a difference. I'm going to walk away with the title. So, Enjoy. Hope he enjoys this Canadian trip. He's going to Canada. He's going to defend the belt in Canada for a while. And for all that talent, he's going to rack up another bunch of defenses. Fantastic. Delighted for him. And then he can shine it up for me and present it to me in May. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, 100%. A couple of people that have reached out already, and I think this is Adam Kane. Now, if you are watching this via Facebook Live, then just go to streamyard.com/Facebook. Once you've done that, it will automatically be able to show us your icon picture and your name on screen. I think this is Adam James Kane anyway. It's always great to see how you got better with each match, and winning the belt was electric. So Adam is obviously a big fan of yours, remembers that very, very well. Now, I've seen a fair bit of you in the ring over the last couple of weeks, and it was probably a couple of Fridays back in the Tram Shed in Cardiff, and you were facing this gentleman here, Will Ospreay. Doesn't need any introduction. I think widely considered one of the best pros in the world, and a hell of a match you two had. And I remember after the match, Will was absolutely awesome with the fans. I think he spent probably 45 minutes around the ring taking selfies, meeting everybody, and he was absolutely loving it as much as the fans was. But I've got to ask you, to go in the ring toe-to-toe with Will Ospreay, and I think we can all admit that he's kind of up there as maybe 1, 2, or 3 best in the world in 2023, but the guy appears to be on a whole other level at the moment. We talk about Roman Reigns we talk about Roman Reigns being in God mode. I think Will Ospreay is on a whole nother level as well. You, as I said, experienced pro. I'm going to big up Big Damo, of course, all show long, but when you're backstage with someone like Will Ospreay, or when you're in the ring with someone like Will Ospreay, and you're kind of performing with somebody like Will Ospreay, what's it like? And can you just tell that this guy is just on a different level and so special to maybe 95% of everybody else out there?
Absolutely. Listen, I was saying it to anybody who would listen after the match, actually. I've been in there with guys who literally won the WWE title the week after, right? Everybody can check the results. It's pretty easy to find out. And Will was on a much better level than that. And that is the biggest compliment I can give him, because literally right now, he's one of the boys backstage. He's having a laugh and whatever. He hasn't changed a wink, right? But when it comes to the match itself, he's definitely in another plane. As you said, it was an excellent excellent word, actually, because I noticed it in there. Him and I never got to wrestle a singles match when I was on my rise and all that kind of stuff, right? So I never really got a chance to figure out, I couldn't tell a difference. I probably would have found out how good he was all those years ago, you know what I mean? But because I only got to wrestle him when I first got released from WWE in a 6-man, right? It was, he was brilliant then, but it was a 6-man, so it's harder to really know. So this is our first time really, and like all pressure's on just the 2 of us as opposed to the 6. And just to know the difference, even like from the moment we're in the ring, and I feel that there's an electricity about Will Ospreay right now. And like I never saw it maybe when I was, I'd see him on shows 7 years ago. And I think, oh, he's pretty good. He does some really cool stuff, right? And then I'd watch videos of him in New Japan, I'd be like, oh shit, that's really good. And that was the height of it, And then don't get me wrong, this last 2 years, it's been another level though. Maybe the last 3 has been another. I'm now instead of saying pretty good, I'm like, that's very fucking good. You know what I mean? And that's how it felt, and it was getting better and better. But right now, I think I don't know if there's a person on better form than him. If he was a soccer player, if he was playing in any other professional sport, people would say he's the most informed player in the world. And I feel that's him right now. I know a couple of years ago people would have said Kenny Omega was that guy, right? But right now it is Will, and it's undoubtedly Will, really. Maybe Roman Reigns is the closest you can say. Like that's nuts that I'm comparing him, to the WWE and Universal Champion. You know what I mean? But that's the standard of level that he's at. In fact, that's a match that I'd love to see. It'd be two masters right now, like going at it. And you can see it with Will, like the way Will has changed his entire style. Like he can do anything that you can think of off the ropes, whatever else, but he doesn't rely on it anymore. And he's now relying on the emotion of what he's doing and what people are invested in. And that for me that's the key. You know what I mean? That's why he's so good. Like, because, people always talk about his match with Ricochet where they were one-upping each other on athleticism, and it was something, completely mental, right? Yeah. But there's so much less of that. Like, it's now about, he's kind of dragging emotions out of the people in the audience. Like at the tram shed the other day, like there's people there who'd never been to wrestling before, and there's people who were there, who'd been wrestling fans for their entire lives, and like he got the same emotion from both of them, and like that for me is massive. You know what I mean? And I don't think people understand how lucky we are to have somebody at his level available right now on independent shows. So I'm telling you this now: if you're at all thinking about going to a show and he's on it, you need to fucking go, right? Absolutely. Because this won't last for long. Because like somebody in America is going to realize we need to tie this guy down, right? They're slowly figuring that out, right? A bit too slowly for common sense sake, right? But until that happens, you need to go and see him as much as possible. RevPro are doing a lot of shows with him over the next few months. Get your ass out there, because there's going to be a day you're going to regret that you didn't see enough of Will Ospreay before he was unavailable to you. You know what I mean? And it won't be for injury, and it'll be because somebody will put a contract to him and say you can no longer do that stuff, right? And he'll be devastated when that happens. And that's all testament to Will. Will actively wants to be available to people in Britain right now, which is nuts, right? But that's what he's done this last couple of years. So that's what I'm trying to tell everybody. Go and see him as much as you can, because that fella is elevating people right now. He elevated Leighton recently, Leighton Buzzard. I know he elevated Luke Jacobs recently. There's a bunch of people he's really elevating, because he's looking at it through different lenses. He's looking at it through, as you said, he's on another plane. He's on another level. And it'll only last so long before somebody in America makes that impossible for him to be available to us. So go and see him. Go and experience it. See it live. There's no better way than watching it live. Go and do it now, because he's worth every penny.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to change the subject to Progress, because I think they're another company, along with OTT, that are a company certainly in the UK that's very, very close to your heart. Certainly since you've come back from WWE, and I've been very fortunate enough to see the majority of your matches inside the Electric Ballroom, matches against like the likes of Luke Jacobs, Dan Maloney, Spike Trivet, everybody can boo that. Yeah, I heard you. Dean Allmark, and so many more. And Ricky Knight Jr. A couple of weekends ago. And like I say, there's yourself and RKJ there.
Me waffling him, yeah.
Absolutely.
Grateful.
A little fact for you, and I don't know if you realise this, but doing my research, little facts for Big Damo here, is that I think you're the only performer, the only wrestler in Progress history to have won the Progress World and the Progress Atlas title in the same calendar year. There you go. I'm useful for my facts there, and a few pictures of you with the big championship there, winning that off of Ridgeway, of course, last year, and of course the Atlas title, which RKJ is now the proud owner of. But Progress are another company that's been good for yourself since coming back, giving you a lot of opportunities, Absolutely. A lot of wonderful matches against some great talent. A similar scenario to the OTT question from earlier on, where they've given you some great opponents that you probably didn't have a chance to face when you were last on the Indies, 7 years ago or however long it was. But tell us a bit about what Progress mean to you, because it's been an exciting run with them so far, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Like when I first came to Progress, it was, I was working almost, not exclusively, but ICW were effectively my home promotion. Yeah. So a lot of the Progress dates fell on the same dates as ICW. So it was difficult for me to be kind of regular with Progress before I went to the WWE. Like I get on really well with everybody there, and there was nothing like problematic in terms of that. We tried to work it a few times where I would do Progress in the morning, fly up to Glasgow, and then wrestle it. And I'm sure that was a nightmare for everybody involved, but they somehow made it work, right? But you know, it was difficult for me to really get my foot in the door with Progress, and it was unusual when the current team came in and talked to me about it. They came in to do a couple of days. I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. But you know, and I had such a ball being there, but I did not expect to be coming back. You know, I thought it was maybe like an in and out kind of thing. But you know, fast forward a year, and you know, I've become almost like a you know, I've been there almost every show, really, which is nuts. Yeah, right, exactly, a regular, and you know, to be in a position to be world champion, to be Atlas champion, is mind blowing. For considering I've almost, you know, zero history with Progress pre WWE, so it was very cool, and like, you know, it was a testament to the wonderful team they've got there. You know yourself, like you've been around them. Like it's one of the most professional run shows probably in the world, and it happens to be an independent company, which is mind blowing. You know what I mean? It really is an incredible setup there, and like. It's for me. It's one of those things where the shows have just been getting better. You know, that show that we just did in the ballroom was, in my opinion, comparable with any the Progress has ever done. There was just so many wonderful matches. The main event, you know, I myself and Axel had to go out and experience the video in person because it was it was almost a WWE standard, if not better than WWE standard. Hype video,
the video
explained the entire story.
Yeah, 100%.
It was amazing, but to be able to say that on an independent show is nuts, right? So Axel and I had to go out just to experience that part, and we were going to get involved very shortly in the match itself. But it was amazing to be to just experience that, and it must have been amazing for the fans who've been there for the entire story for the last couple of years. You know, and that included through the COVID years. You know what I mean? So it was like a reward for fans. It was like a fan service match almost without feeling like fan service, because it was incredible. And that comes on a show that had like Leo Rush versus Derice. There was, you know, Callum Newman versus, you know, Nick Wayne, and then there was, you know, myself and RKJ and Axel Tischer versus Mike Bird. Like I could keep rhyming off these brilliant matches. You know, there really was a hell of a show. And this is my point, though. It's like, you know, when I first came back, it was like it was, you know, fun shows with young, really hungry talent. You know, with the occasional sprinkle of imports, and now it's like, you know, every match just seems to be, you know, a banger, which is amazing. Like, and I know they've got a show tonight with Gene Money's.
I hope that's going well for them.
Daft Lad Emporium, and I'm sure it'll be absolutely incredible because it shows the personality of the crew there, that they're willing to, you know, right. Let's let Gene Money run a show, and I'm frightened to hear what happens in the end. But I know it'll be incredible, right? But honestly, since I've came back, it's just been one of those things. Like every show I go to, like, and I'm really lucky. Like I've been in with a lot of the younger talent this time around. You know, got in with Warren Banks pre and post injury, which is awesome. He's this incredibly talented lad. You know, who I think people will be talking more and more about over the next couple of years. You know, I was in there with 012 on, you know, Dan, Teresa, and Leon are all fantastic. Like that's, I've spent a lot of time with Dan, and I've wrestled him a couple of times now. He's a mentalist, but he's absolutely brilliant.
He's the real deal.
You know, and Teresa is, you know, I see Teresa a lot. He does OTT a lot as well, and he's one of those lads who, like, I think it's probably clicked for in the last couple of years, and he's just getting better. I love his gimmick. I get the experience. His intro. I was in ring while he was rapping to the ring, and I was like, "This is fucking cool!" Like, and I was like, nearly dancing myself. You know what I mean? Nearly forcing Luke Jacobs to dance, which is impossible, by the way. But maybe when he's had a couple of beverages. But you know, it was very cool. It was a really good experience. You know, this whole time so far, because, you know, anytime I'm in there even with a Luke Jacobs or whatever, who's this tough as old boots, 23-year-old, you know what I mean? Like, and then, you know, RKJ's another one. Like, they all seem to be cut from the same cloth. They're all hungry. They're all super talented, and they're all fucking young, which is doing my head in, by the way. They're all super young, you know. They're all forcing me to put on good matches. I'm like, oh, geez. You know, but no, it's been amazing. And like, I've just really fallen in love with the crew there as well. Like, because, like, I could quite easily stay here in America. I get enough opportunities for work and stuff like that. But the enthusiasm of these rosters, the enthusiasm of the crowd, like, the crowd have really taken to me in the last year as well, which has been, you know, that I get it. Like, I'm a strange version of a babyface, and yet for some reason, you know, they dig it, you know, and that's one of the things that like really what, you know, I want to come back and I want to put on, you know, bangers as much as I possibly can, you know, and like as I said, you know, like I've been making the time to come over for OTT, to come over for Progress, and now I'm back doing with RevPro and with ICW as well. So it's like I just feel almost like we're hitting that little boom period again, and I think Progress is, and you know, maybe OTT as well, like are just kind of leading that charge in a way, because yes, I'm sure there's been really difficult times where the draws have been down, and there's been, you know, difficulties with talent not being able to make shows, and I get all of that. I'm sure that's the toughest part about business, but seeing the kids step up when these things happen has been one of the coolest fucking things, because I remember when sadly when Jay Briscoe died, Eddie Kingston couldn't come to the homecoming shows for OTT earlier on in the year, and the roster, we all made a big effort to make sure that nobody went home unhappy, and that was a huge testament to the quality levels, you know what I mean? And I know that Progress on the exact same boat, like they're prepared for all eventualities. That roster, no matter what, wants to go out and put on a hell of a show at all times. So that is awesome, and the fact that they're doing their best to put in like bigger shows, bigger areas, and things like that is amazing. And like you see it in the ballroom. The ballroom just seems to be getting busier, which is awesome.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Towards the end of last year, November, December shows, I was worried, you know what I mean, because that's traditionally when numbers would come down in British wrestling. But my God, November, December were our biggest shows, you know what I mean? So I was like, holy shit, that's actually incredible. That blows my mind. And then for us to then put like a huge amount of people back in again there at the weekend, last weekend, was awesome. You know what I mean? That's what we want. And, you know, as performers and as I'm sure, you know, business people behind it as well, that's what they want. So, you know, so thanks so much for the fans who have came back. And as I was talking about the malaise and stuff like that, that is something that is real. And I understand it, you know, for a variety of reasons. I understand it. But if you are thinking about giving these companies a chance, whether it's RevPro, OTT, Progress, ICW, then do it. Now's the time, because this current crop of kids, I hate calling them kids, but they're 18 to 25. It's doing my fucking head in, right? They're literally kids, right? But they're really fucking talented. And like, this is one of those situations where, you know, you might be thinking, oh, is Damo just cheerleading a bit? I'm like, no, I'm getting my ass kicked on a regular basis. This is not cheerleading, you know what I mean? So,
but like I say, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head, and like I say, it's really exciting. It is almost the boom period for British independent wrestling, and getting very close to them levels of mid 2010s, 2015, 2016, 2017. One thing we did see at the Electric Ballroom a couple of Sundays ago was that gentleman there. And like I say, I'm guessing that was fresh off of your match against RKJ. He had wrestled earlier on in the night. I know that you two have had a couple of tag matches together in a Progress ring, undefeated, of course. But that brings us to another question that came through before we went live from Ashley Clements. Have you been enjoying your tag team reunion with Axel, and any tag teams you're looking forward to still facing at Progress till you go after the tag titles? So we had a little chat after the show with myself, yourself, and Axel. Had a really nice chat upstairs, and we spoke about the stacked tag team division in Progress. And I've seen dozens of amazing tag matches. I honestly think they've got the strongest and the hottest tag division in the whole world, and we'll kind of put my name to that.
It's up there, absolutely.
But you know, you're going to be in that mix now with Axel, a reformation of sorts of the Sanity, but you know, Sanity of a different kind in a Progress ring 2023, and you add a different element, a different mix, a different dynamic to the other teams there. So that really shakes things up and makes things quite a bit more exciting for the fans. It must be exciting for yourself as well.
Honestly, like, you got to spend a bit of time with me and Axel. You know that he's literally one of my best friends. So he's one of those people who is laughably talented in ring, and I think people are only really starting to figure that out. You know what I mean? Like, one of the worst parts about NXT was Axel didn't get an awful lot of singles matches until he was in Imperium. So you never really got to see him in singles when he was a part of Sanity. You know, but we all knew, like, we were seeing him every night, and he was incredible. Like, and I would say, for my money, we only turned babyface to Sanity because of Axel and Nikki. They brought this energy, and they overcommitted to the role. So, like, now when I'm getting the team with them, it's brilliant, because we always loved, you know, hanging out together. We loved traveling together. You know, we loved wrestling together, and like we bounce things off each other when even when we're not teaming, before matches, we'll sometimes ask each other ideas and stuff. You know what I mean? And that's he's just such a talented fella. And what I've loved though since he's come back is he's been able to showcase himself, because he is fucking incredible. You know what I mean? And he is really good at what he does. And now he's going to be here on a more regular basis in Britain, which is brilliant. I'm delighted about that, because obviously I'm not in Britain right now. It's really bright outside, but I mean, I'm just back.
I was going to say, if you're in America, you've got some really bright streetlights. But no,
I was going to say, this is definitely not. I think I've got a tan from sitting inside. That's how warm it is right now. So, but no, honestly, seeing Axel more in England more often, I'm going to do my very best to try and get him over more for OTT and for maybe for ICW as well, because I think there's just so much people can learn from him. But from a selfish point of view, getting the team with Axel in progress is awesome, because I feel like it's a natural story that needs to be told. Because we've done a bunch of stuff. He's been in WXW. He was WXW World Champion. You know what I mean? So he's done a bunch of stuff since he's come out. But I think now we could maybe go and do a nice little run and make those tag belts maybe world travel tag belts a bit more. You know what I mean? So, and in answer to Ashley's question, he was talking about what teams are we hoping to wrestle. There are just so many right now. I'd love to see a super strong style tournament, just tag teams, right? There's so many available now, right? Yeah. Absolutely. 0121, I've talked about before. Lycos Gym, they're cunts, but they're awesome. You know what I mean? Sunshine Machine, man. I've never wrestled either of them, and that would be something I'd really like to do, But, there's Smoking Aces, there's the RevPro champions right now, Danny and Brendan, they're both brilliant as well. There's just so many kicking around right now, and I've missed a couple, by the way. It just shows you, that's how I know I'm getting old, But there really are a bunch of fantastic tag teams kicking around, and now's the time, And that's, I think for us, we recognize that a little as well. We recognize that now would never be a better time for us to maybe try and shore up the tag division a little bit, get more eyes on it, because that is something that we will be able to do. A match that we have might reach further audiences and stuff like that. It might help the ones who we're against. And, that's something we've kind of thought about. And thankfully, Progress are the ones who brought it to us. They want to do it. So Axel and I have been talking about this for a couple of years, right? And it was actually Progress saying, yeah, you're doing this now. I was like, oh, shit, that's awesome. So, wicked. So, yeah, very, very much looking forward to it. And looking forward to seeing all the eventualities that can come off it, because as I say, you got to experience it. I've got a real passion for being around Axel. He's a real friend of mine, and we talk on a regular basis. Sometimes, he'll send me videos of his son and stuff like that as well. So that's one of the cool parts of Sanity, was getting to hang around with him so much. I'd met him before we went to WWE, but getting to actually travel with him was cool. He was the best possible person to travel with. We really jammed when it came to, even when going to sleep, even when getting up for the gym, we just really figured all that stuff out, because those are the hardest parts about traveling. Is if you're going to do it with other people, you have to be in some sort of schedule together. And for some reason, the two of us worked out really well. And we have different tastes and stuff like that. I'd be up at 4 a.m. sometimes watching football games on the phone. If we were on the west coast of America, then I'd have to watch a game on my phone. But he forgave me for it. I'd be quietly shouting at the screen, But no, honestly, traveling with him was really cool. We got to go to Dubai together. We roomed together in Dubai and stuff like that as well. It was very cool. And it's been awesome. The progress have allowed this to happen. So yeah, no, we're very excited for the next stage, and we'd love to help try and elevate that tag division that tiny bit more. As you say, it's up there with the best in the world. So
100%.
Let's make sure the world knows about it.
Absolutely. And I've said to many people, Sunshine Machine, they've gone through all challenges, all competitors, just about everybody else in the Progress tag team ranks, but they haven't gone through Big Damo and Axel yet. So that is a match that has to happen for sure. And I've had dozens of Progress talent on this podcast over the last year or 2 years, one of them being Bullet. And I know that you two have got a little bit of a rivalry cooking there. But one interesting thing that Bullet said is he's a big guy as well, 6'3", maybe touching 20 stone, 300 pounds. Yourself and Bullet are the two biggest guys in Progress. And he said that, you go back in time, the 1980s, the 1990s, the scene was dominated by big guys, 6 foot plus, 300 pounds plus, if not bigger and taller. Nowadays, it's kind of flipped on its head a little bit. The bigger man, the heavyweight, maybe the super heavyweight is more in the minority. What's your general take on kind of heavyweights and super heavyweights in the current kind of climate of professional wrestling, especially the indies and the companies that you work for, and how they're being used in general?
Well, like the entirety of the scene moved and gravitated towards the smaller wrestler because work rate became, a bigger and a more important part of the fandom. You know what I mean? When you think of the Guerreros, the Benoits, the Malenkos, that period, Jericho's, that period, Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels before that, Bret Hart before that. I think there's different periods throughout that, maybe 10 years that there was this leaning towards, okay, we like these slightly more exciting matches, so that meant that the bigger lads, maybe had, don't get me wrong, for every, Kurt Angle, there's a Brock Lesnar, you know what I mean? But, there generally has been a bit of a dearth in super talented, super heavyweights. And I think that a lot of that goes down to luck. Maybe it goes down to people just not accepting, inexperience as much. Maybe I noticed it a little bit in NXT myself. There'd be the basketball players and stuff coming through who are athletic, but just they can't seem to get their opportunities. You know what I mean? Almost kind of broke that mold, and he's now on Raw. Now. I think he's in Raw. Yeah, he's in Raw. And he's maybe not quite there yet talent wise, but he's definitely closer and closer as time goes. And he's one of the lads who I wish I'd spent a bit more time with, you know what I mean? Because I'd love to have tried to, just give him a little bit, of my knowledge. Him and I just didn't cross over as much. We see each other a lot, actually, but, we never really got a chance to cross each other in training, sadly, just timing. But I wish I'd maybe just had a bit more time with him. But, regardless, there is this kind of leaning towards the smaller wrestler. But that's one of the reasons why I stood out so much, and that's why I got my opportunity, is because whenever I was coming through, there was very few people who looked like me. It was myself and Dave Mastiff were the two biggest people in Britain at the time, and of course, WWE signed us both. That's kind of what would happen. So it's a double-edged sword for me insofar as it was the dearth of the heavyweight is probably the reason why I stood out so much. But at the same time, coming into Progress now, I'm the biggest guy in the roster. The second biggest was maybe Luke Jacobs. Who's somebody who's getting bigger, but he's not at that kind of weight level. He's maybe 230, 240. So when Bullet comes in, and fair play to him, he is around that height. He is around that weight as me. And he has got this chip in his shoulder. He wants to be the big man. So maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need somebody like that who wants to have this competition. But listen, you're going to have to be very good at it. You're going to have to be a hell of a big man to be a better big man than me, So, and he's got that confidence in himself, and I respect that. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do this at some point. Maybe Super Strong Style would be the place that the two of us could do it. Maybe at the final, as the two of us make it all the way there. We'll see how that
would be a good final, wouldn't it? Yeah, they'd have to
reinforce the ring.
They'd have to reinforce the ring.
Everybody always says they reinforce the ring. And I'm I'm sure I have broke a few boards in my time, right? But it would be one of those things. But listen, there's a talent there. Obviously, he's in the mindset with Spike Gervais. So there's something wrong with him, obviously. But we'll get a chance to see how he evolves and how he gets better and whatever else. He's not one of the boys who comes up and asks me for advice, So I think he genuinely thinks he's ready to take me on. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to making that happen. He's definitely somebody I've got an eye on. And maybe Axel and I can take on himself and Spike, and we'll do a bit of double humbling at some point, Man, but no, listen, it is one of those things about British wrestling. And when there is a talented heavyweight, I think people do take notice. And I think over the years, whether it's you look all the way back to the Marty Joneses, the Finleys, and Pete Roberts, one of my favorites of all times as well. There's always been talented but athletic heavyweights, and that really suited me because I'm an athlete. I just happen to be very big, so so that really suited me. To be able to have that level of work rate, maybe not to the level of some of these lads, but to have a level of work rate that people still resonated with. That's why Big Damo stood out so much in the independents beforehand, and that's why the likes of WWE and stuff like that came looking for me when they did, because they were like, oh, there's this really large hairy guy who can do stupid things, So But yes, looking forward to the next generation. And I'm hoping that there are one or two more heavyweights who do come through, because and I've seen the likes of Will Cruz and stuff like that who definitely, I feel that there is something there.
Yeah.
I think that there's a talent, and for him it's just match experience for Will. I think once he's had enough under his belt, he'll be as good as anybody. I've seen it in part. I've seen some great matches from him. You know what I mean? And it's just a case of consistently getting these matches to showcase how good he is. And I think by this time next year, I think you'll be talking about Will Cruz. Sorry, one of my alarms. I think you'll be talking about Will Cruz as one of the top guys in Britain. Hopefully this time next year, and I think that's a testament to how good he is. But it'll also be a testament to the people who book him and willing to book him as a super heavyweight. And that's one of those things that you have to hope for. I got really lucky during my period. ICW, Progress, OTT, RevPro. They all wanted to book super heavyweight. At that point I was 22, 23 stone, and people wanted me on those shows. So I'm hoping that the next group of promoters who are all coming through right now do the same with Will Cruz, and there's a chance for him and for Bullet and for everybody else to showcase that there's big guys kicking around who are really fucking good. When I was coming through, the heavyweights like Rampage Brown were really instrumental in helping me get to that next level. So I'm hoping that there's other people like that out there who can help Will try and find that next gear. But I'm very excited for the future. There's definitely a couple there, and hopefully there's more coming too.
Yeah, very exciting times. And Richie, watching this via YouTube, definitely looking forward to getting yourself and Bullet in the ring sometime soon. Like I say, Super Strong Style, maybe the final, who knows? But you alluded to it there, Damo, and around 2015, 2016, you were being booked everywhere. You were branching out everywhere, WXW, Progress, RevPro, winning the ICW World title. You even defended it over in New York, winning the WCPW World title as well. He was on a complete tear around that time before getting signed. And this was also, we touched on it earlier, at the kind of the pinnacle of when BritWres was kind of the hottest scene in the world, and you were there absolutely killing it. Obviously, you got signed later on that year, but such a fantastic time, not only to be a fan, but to be in the business and to be doing all the things you were doing during that time with those companies, winning those championships, getting the recognition and the notoriety. Do you look back on those years before getting signed with a great amount of fondness?
Absolutely. I mean, my God, like I didn't really realize it at the time. You know what I mean? Like how incredible it was. But I definitely remember when the crowds weren't there. I remember when the promotions weren't as regular, when they weren't as good, when there wasn't as good a roster, and then suddenly there was. And like I remember, I've memories of different times. Like I told you, I think I walked into my first Super Strong Style of Progress, right? And everybody who I really liked in Britain was all there, and Europe, like Walter, Tommy End as well. Like everybody who I liked, who I would see on the occasional shows, all there at the same time. And I was like, shit, this is something special, and that was this, like another light bulb moment for me, that knowing that this could happen, because there were certain shows, like RevPro chose 6 of us and then put us against people from Japan or people from America. That was, and it was a feather in my cap to be one of those chosen. Like whether it was Zach or Will or myself, for us to be chosen is massive, and all of us went on to do incredible things. And like, that's fair play to Andy Quill, and he made that decision. He made the decision, for all of us, and we did our very best to repay him, with the great matches that we could put on. But I'm sure it was a nightmare for him, because all of us said fucked off. But that's why I was saying earlier about Will being available and being there, to be able to be there for shows is so massive, because he is so good. But yeah, that bubble, that window, and I think back, it's like 2011, 2012, as I was figuring out who I was, and like the crowds were coming up, because in 2009 we had the recession, and we put out. I'd speak to a promoter. He's put out, maybe the year before, he put out like 5 posters and got 500 people, right? And this time he's put out 500 posters and can't get 5 people. That just seemed to be the way of it. It was sad, and a lot of companies closed, and there was a lot of people maybe like moved away from wrestling because they just couldn't afford to be in it, And then within like 2-3 years, as that was changing, it was cool. You noticed it, like crowds are coming up. There's maybe like more little promotions cropping up, training skills are doing a little bit better. They're making better decisions. And a lot of the talented wrestlers are now starting to appear on shows together. 13, 14, 15, that's ICW, Progress, RevPro, that's exactly what was happening. You know what I mean? Like, that, I just remember, like, I always go back to that when I'm sitting in the Super Strong stand. I'm like, almost every dude who I loved was there. Like Rampage Brown, like Dave Mastiff, like all the lads who I'd see it, a couple of times in a year were there all at the same time. And that was it. That was the realization that something special was coming. And then ICW were putting so many people in the buildings. Like, the rise of Great Omania was just like, to be a part of that was insane. And Drew coming back, like that. All these things happen all at the same time, and it meant that ICW just took off. We put 4,000 people in the SECC, put 6,000 people in the Hydro, which is nuts. When I think about that, that is nuts. That is a WWE level, like attendance. Like that's AEW level attendance, But that's what independent promotions were doing at the time. Progress did it with Ali Pali and stuff like that. And Wembley and whatever. Like that's. RevPro with the York Hall always, they're doing York Hall about 4 times a year. And they're putting over 1,000 people in every single time. OTT's doing it with the National Stadium. These are the things that like doesn't make sense, but that's how fast things were rising. They were rising at incredible speeds, and it meant that all of us were getting these opportunities against each other to have these wicked matches. I mean, I remember wrestling like Mark Haskins in one of the smaller venues for RevPro. And like, we're having a killer match, and we're kind of like, oh, it's a shame we didn't do this in York Hall, because you go to York Hall the week later and it's fucking 2,000 people, So, but that's how good the roster was at the time, like we could do the small venue we used to do on the Sundays for RevPro. I know they're in a different one now in London, but I'm trying to remember. There's a little theater, 100 people. I wrestled Zack Sabre in there, wrestled Marty Skrull in there, wrestled a bunch of the the top guys in this tiny venue. And it was awesome, just an incredible experience. And then boom, you're away to Bethnal Green, and you're putting on 2,000 people, whatever it is. So in a venue that I used to watch boxing in, you know what I mean? So it's very cool, like how things change. And my hope for this next couple of years is that's exactly what happens again. Only maybe better, maybe more sustainable. And with a bit of luck, I think Progress and OTT, for example, seem to have that mindset. And I know, like RevPro, Andy Quillen puts on incredible shows, so I have every belief in him to easily get these big draws again. You know what I mean? So I know that we've got York Hall coming up very soon, the end of March, and I've got every belief that he'll do some good business there. And my hope though is just for people to realize that yes, you might not recognize a lot of the names on cards, but when you start to see these guys and girls, like, you're going to start thinking, holy shit, this is special, because that feeling that you guys had, 2015, 2014, like, you're going to feel it again, and you might feel it in an even better way. I can't believe that's nearly 10 years ago, but that was 9 years ago.
Crazy,
like
yeah.
But yeah, this is the truth though. Like, we're going to get that next bubble, the next boom, and it'll be soon. It'll be very soon. And I hope that you guys realize you want to be early with these, with these booms, because you're going to see, like, on the way up is the best part of the journey. When you're at the top, it's great, but when you're on the way up, that's the best part of the journey. And I'm hoping that a lot of people start to realize that and start to coming out. And if you're thinking about supporting, now's the time. It really, really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to NXT now, and obviously got some pictures of yourself, some singles work, and throwing Pete Dunne around. That's never a bad thing.
Always fun. Always fun.
Good day at the office. But tell us a bit about Sanity, and there's the faction there. And like I say, I love the look. I love the entrance music. I just love the chemistry between the four of you. But what was the original kind of vision for Sanity? What was the original selling point? Because I think you joined slightly after the faction was already a thing. I think Madman Fulton was originally part of the faction. You got signed at the end of 2016. Almost straight away, you was working the Florida Loop with Axel pretty much straight away, and then you joined Sanity around the same time. But what was the vision of Sanity, both from the boys, from you guys collectively, maybe the office? How was it sold to you?
Right, so it was told to me that I wasn't in it. You know what I mean? Like, it was already going, it was already flying.
Yeah.
And then I get signed. I think it was the October or whatever it is. And then I think by November, I was in it because Sawyer Fulton took a terrible injury. He tore the pectoral off the bone, so he was out for maybe 6 or 7 months. It was a long time. And it was just as Sanity had debuted. The timing was incredibly bad. So, I was meant to debut. I revealed this recently. I was meant to debut at the first UK tournament. I was actually helping get names for the tournament, get people from Britain into the tournament. I was helping. They actually ran through the names of the tournament they were going to call it and stuff like that. And I had to think of. It's like, not me to fucking answer these questions. Okay, so I was helping like put that together. So that was my debut was going to be with that, and then the change happens. Sadly, Sawyer gets hurt, and like I felt like so guilty at the time. But like Terry Taylor said to me, he said, "If not you, then who?" So that was it. I got to work with my wife. I got to work with Eric Young, who I haven't really spoken about yet here, but I wrestled Eric for TNA, and the two of us got on like a house on fire. He's just this incredible fella. He's so laughably good at everything. Like, and I hate saying it, but everything. He's so good at fucking everything, right? Yeah. Doesn't matter what you would put him in, he'd be good at it. Yeah, if you asked him to go and play football tomorrow, he'd be good at it. It's just that type of guy. So he was such a pleasure to learn from. All that TV experience that he had. So he's able to help us like temper expectations at time, or he's or even like ideas, thought processes. If something goes wrong, how to play with it, how to roll with it. Like, we were meant to be villains against AOP. AOP were going to be we're going to be the baby faces. But the fans just said, no, we want Sanity. And that was very cool. And that was, as I said to you earlier on, that was because of the overcommitment of everybody involved. Like Nikki and Axel just really brought in energy. I was just so talented. And then for me, it was just great to be a part of that. Like, you're getting to be a part of this sick entrance, the sick fucking entrance way, the lighting, the smoke machines, the noise, everything was just amazing. Like, and that was my first experience. I'd always been like the music was just a bit of it. It wasn't important, but this is the pomp and circumstance of WWE. So boom, you're getting this fucking sick entrance. You're getting everything else.
And Nikki was the energy, wasn't she? Nikki was the energy, the way she would just dive into the ring, shake the ropes, just a pure, crazy person, and it worked.
But she bounced off Axel so much, and that was what was so funny is like they became really good friends. He was really, really good to her before I got over there. Nikki was here about 6 months, 7 months before me, and Axel like before they even got put together in Sanity, he was just so good to her because. We'd known each other on the German independence. I'd seen him at a few shows, and we got on really well. He gave me really good advice actually for a tryout. And then to find out he was so sweet to her when she was over there. And then we got to I come over and get to hang out with his family, his wife and his kids. And so it's been getting to know him was really cool. But to know that he was such a good dude, really, I think that really helped with the energy because the two of them really brought something interesting. You know what I mean? Nikki, goes to another level. She likes to lose herself in that character, and I thought that was so cool because it's difficult to lose yourself in WWE because everything's so structured. But for them to be able to lose themselves in the role, and we did it a couple of times too. There was a couple of times, the crowd just went batshit for us. Like, that was very fucking cool. Like, and that's where you kind of like, oh shit, this is real, And then for us to be used for the commercial for one of the video games was one of the coolest experiences of my life because, if we're an NXT act, right? And that was the first commercial for the fucking 2K game. Crazy. And it hadn't been done before. So we were like we didn't even realize how big a deal it was until literally 2K explained, we've never used an NXT talent to promote a video game before, but they used our full entrance because they were like, you could now do 4-on-4s in 2K, which was cool. So all these things that just kind of all happened. We got a T-shirt that nobody told us about. It just appeared, right? They didn't tell us what the design was going to be or anything like that. It just appeared, and it was fucking awesome. You know what I mean? So stuff like that kept kind of happening, and that was just the demand. The fans just decided we want Sanity, and it was very cool to be a part of that, and it was, when I think about it, it was such a short amount of time we were actually together. A year and a half, I think. Yeah. You know what I mean? Is that maybe 2.5 years, whatever it was? But in terms of all four of us together, it was a year and a half, which is if even that long. In fact, I might be overestimating how long we were together. So, for people to still care, now, like they'll still tweet us or whatever else, or messages, or promotions to want to see me and Axel together. That's awesome. But like, it's a testament to those talented people I was working with. They were all fantastic, and they all, like, as I said, Nikki, Axel brought the energy, and EY brought the legitimacy almost. You know what I mean? So. Even like our jackets and stuff, we got made outside of like somebody who wasn't involved in wrestling. It was a tattoo artist made our jackets, so we made them very unique to all four of us. They cost a bloody fortune, but it was so cool. But that's we wanted it to be not like a wrestling costume, and like even when we were trying to think of gear, like I started wearing the kilts and stuff like that because I just wanted to be different. Nikki was wearing like corsets and stuff that people shouldn't wear wrestling. You know what I mean? That's what we tried to go with, and people bought into it. And we had some really cool experiences. Like to this day, the Orlando intro where we came out opened the pay-per-view against Cassius Ohno, Ty Dillinger, Roderick Strong, and Ruby. Like that was one of the coolest.
That was the match.
I think it changed into Cassius Ohno. There was an injury angle to Jose. But I remember we made our entrance in Orlando. Like, I'm an Orlando Magic fan. I have been since 1993. So to be at the Amway Center not watching the basketball was pretty fucking cool. And like, I went way up into the rafters, right? And got to experience like, I think it was Ember Moon's entrance way up in the very top of the building. It was very fucking cool. So to be able to like experience it in a venue that I loved when the crowd was so hot, and wrestle against people who I love, because Roderick Strong is one of the people I really love in wrestling. He's a really cool guy. Ruby Riott as well, like Ruby Soho now. Sorry, they're really great people. Cassius is like, he's like my wrestling dad. You know what I mean? If he was any older, maybe I could call him that. But he's a fella I wrestled a bunch in the Indies. And I got I love talking basketball with to this day. I think he tweeted me the other day actually. And then Ty Dillinger was the number 2 babyface in NXT at the time, so like he helped give Sanity the legitimacy, you know what I mean? So it was very cool. It was a really good experience, and like we got to have killer matches like the War Games and all that. Even the boys against AOP was awesome. What I loved about Sanity is that we could beat anybody, but we could be beaten by anybody, and I thought that was a really cool part of it because we could beat AOP, but then we could also in comes Undisputed Era and they beat us. Like that's kind of one of the things I loved about the act was we didn't look bad in defeat, if that makes sense. We if anything, it galvanized us, which I thought was cool. And I think that's the key to good wrestling is to try and like always have a way to have what happens next. You know what I mean? And through that whole period, like there was always a great way to answer that. You know what I mean? And that's what I love. My only real regret is I still think EY should have won the title when we were villains, and I think that could have been the big one. I know they went with the tag team thing and said that's all fine, whatever else, but I think that was the only thing missing. Is I think he would have been a great foil for Shinsuke Nakamura. I think that would have been amazing to see. So we did it a few times on the house shows and stuff like that. And like I just think that would have been really fucking cool because I think EY would be nailed on to be a champion in WWE, but. That's me at my very like pernickety, what if, but like other than that, it was a great experience. It really was.
Absolutely. And we spoke about the Orlando takeover match on April the 1st, but then the following day, what about this, Damo? And
oh my God,
yourself in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I'm going to bring up the picture again because I mean that's a relay if everyone's seen it.
I can see myself now.
Can you see yourself? I did struggle to find you, but there's a hole. I
can see the ginger hair. That's the key.
But
I mean, God.
I don't think as fans, I don't think we found out that you were going to be part of that until maybe the day of, possibly the day before. I don't know, something crazy like that. And I did pop when I kind of saw an image saying, right, Killian Dane's going to be in the Andre. So what? He's going to make his WrestleMania debut. But I mean, that must have been a hell of a thrill, especially coming off of the match the night before, that tremendous 8-man tag. But when did you find out you're going to be part of the Andre Battle Royal in front of 70,000 people in that fantastic, with some great talent? Tell us about it.
So the show was Sunday. We had the takeover on Saturday. I found out Friday night, and it blew my mind, man, because right. It was very strict in NXT at that period. It was because they weren't sure how they wanted NXT to be yet. It was still in that kind of transition mode. So to be honest with you, no, I didn't even know if we were going to be allowed to be at WrestleMania. Like, we weren't sure yet really what. I think we found out, we're going to go and we're going to do whatever. Like, we weren't sure yet really because there was still a separation, And then they said, we're going to announce Tian Bing was one of the Chinese competitors. We're all like, we're all cheering, right? It was just the group of the lads and the girls were all together. And then they're like, and Killian Dane's also going to be in. I was like, and I did not see it coming. And you're just like, but they announced it in front of everybody. Everybody's around me. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake! Like, and I'm sure it must have been hilarious because I'm like literally looking down, going, how the fuck do I deal with this? But like, it was very cool, and like getting that opportunity. So like in the moment, like in the ring and stuff like that, like I was fun. Like I don't get the butterflies and all that kind of stuff. Like at the time, I find all that stuff really easy. And I remember like, speaking to Shawn Michaels, he was like, do your best to try and take it in because as wrestlers, we do our best to just kind of like no-sell everything, as it's happening. But I did try when I'm walking down the ramp. My friend Sarah Logan got this brilliant shot of me walking down the ramp, like, and it, I've kept it. It's a really sick photo, and it was amazing that I got to do that opportunity. And when I think about all the people who were in that bloody ring, like the Usos and all, that was my first time, like, being in the ring with some of those lads. And there was the Brody Lee and stuff, so there was a lot of really cool guys there. Like
Strowman was there, and
there was Strowman, exactly. Big Show was there. Like there was like a ridiculous talent group there, and it was mind blowing that I was a part of it. Like, and then on the day, I get there, and they're like, right, we've got you going to the final three, and we're like, what? They're like, do you know who Rob Gronkowski is? And I'm like, yeah, the football guy. Yeah. It's like, well, there's going to be shenanigans there, and I'm like, oh Christ, what? I'm just like, okay, smile and wave. That's kind of my philosophy anyway. But yeah, brilliant experience. Something I never thought would happen. When I first started wrestling, I genuinely thought that the concept of being on a WrestleMania would be, such a wide gap from where I had started. Yes, that gap shortened. Even when I was killing it in the Indies and stuff like that, I still didn't think like there'd be an opportunity to have that kind of time. And there you go. It happens. They just decide randomly you're going to do it. Okay, so you go and do it. You do your best. And had a lot of fun. Like I remember like leaving like as afterwards. It hit me afterwards. You know what I mean? I'm sitting in one of the boxes that they had for us, and I was sweating so much. It was so hot. Like I can't explain to you. Florida is warm the best of the times, but it was the middle of April. It was like 90 odd degrees, and I'm literally like in puddles of sweat, right?
Especially after just performing in a battle royal, yeah,
exactly. And there was no. The locker room was a tent, right? This giant tent, but it was like. You're trying to have something that's cool enough, and it was impossible to stay cool. You know what I mean? So, and I also didn't want to stay in the locker room because the lads had matches and stuff like that. But, so I go upstairs and I have a beer, and I'm just sitting there going, "Fucking hell, I can't believe I was on that bloody show." You know what I mean? And it was mind blowing. I got to meet like Roman Reigns. First time I met him, and he's like, he fucking grabs me and says, "If they tell you to shave your back, tell them to fuck off." And I was like, fucking yes. So I don't think I've said that one publicly, so there you go. There's a little bonus for you, Jonas. But I respect, and I got like John Cena and stuff like that. Like, it was very fucking cool. And like, there's just people who've got enough to worry about on that day, and they were all fucking cool. But one of the coolest parts of it, right? I didn't even know that the Hardy Boys were there. So when I went upstairs, I actually got to see that as a surprise, and it was very fucking cool that they returned. They kept it all super secret, literally, even from us backstage. Even, you know what I mean? And I was in Cater Plenty. Of course, I was in Cater. Look at me. I was in Cater Plenty. I was backstage Plenty and whatever else. And the fact that they managed to keep it was very cool. So that was awesome because I was a Hardy Boys fan as a kid.
Oh, nice.
To see them and stuff. And then I got to see them after and stuff. And I worked Jeff a bunch later on, which was very cool. So I'd seen Matt on the Indies, and we'd done a couple of shows together and stuff. So it was very cool to see them again and whatever. It was very awesome. So it was a really cool experience for a variety of reasons. But also because, some of my mates were actually in the crowd, like by accident, just happened to be going to Orlando for Mania. So, you know, I still get, you know, the occasional photo sent to me. Oh, I was here. I was like, oh shit, you know what I mean? So, and they didn't know I was going to be involved until literally the last minute. So, you know, for that stuff to happen was all very cool coincidences. You know what I mean? But yeah, great experience.
Absolutely.
And like, you know, for you know, all the fans who were tweeting me and messaging me after, really appreciate it. You know, it was an awesome, and I think that announced me almost to the wrestling world. You know what I mean? Because not everybody watched NXT. You know, they were like, "Who's this fucking big hairy troll?" You know what I mean? And you know, I realized I had a very unique look. So.
But I mean, you was only probably 6 months into being signed, so I mean,
if even.
Oh, but definitely worth it. And Alex has been in touch again. Alex Perez, thank you very much, Alex. Another question for Damo, for the boys' memory of War Games in 2017. And you did allude to it a moment ago, but like I say, capped off what was a brilliant year for you. Now, let me bring up the right graphic here.
Oh, there you go.
Sanity, Undisputed Era, and of course Roderick Strong and AOP. And was that the first NXT version of War Games? I think it might have been.
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah.
Take us back to that, because not only would that be another cool experience for Sanity and for yourself individually, but also, you know, a challenging environment, a different type of match. You know, you got 6 other fantastic guys in there as well. What are your memories of that match? And you know, a lot of people look at it and think it's going to be a really hard match to take. And how did you take it?
Well, it was even more awkward because it was 3 teams all coming in at different times as well. So like.
Yeah.
So it was very unique because, you know, first of all, to bring back War Games and for it to be an NXT and for it to be us, you know, there was a lot of things we were just like, oh, okay, awesome, you know. And then the way it worked out, I remember, so big matches like that generally, Michael Hayes would come in and he'd you know, he'd help quarterback those things, you know, and help put them together. He popped in, he drove down, he came in, heard what we had, and he left. He was like, that's fucking great. I'll see you there, right? And that was a testament to everybody involved. We did our very best to make sure everybody was going to shine, staying as true as we could to the gimmick, which is, you know, we all coming in at different times, but also added that new thing that there's a third team was bizarre, you know. So mad respect to whoever decided that was what they were going to go with, you know. But like, you know, there was a lot of talent in that ring. All of the Undisputed Era boys and Roderick Strong, they're all super talented. AOP were great lads, who just listened, you know, and like they did everything we told them. You know, they had a couple of cool ideas as well, and we made sure to get it in. But they you know, they understood that, you know, we had to lead them, and fair play to them. They did a hell of a job, and they made sure that they looked good doing it. And then obviously, like, EY and Axel, you know, they're both outrageous talents. When we were planning the match, I was kind of accidentally designated as the kind of quarterback of it. So for me, that was a massive like feather in my cap, because like EY could only be there for whatever day. So like I kind of had to, and obviously the Undisputed Era boys were all brand new. So like, you know, I kind of took it on myself. Right, like, fuck it, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And for it to go well is massive, right? Because, you know, that's a lot of moving parts happening. And things had to change, you know, leading up to it, like, and everybody rolled with the punches. So War Games ended up being one of the best experiences. We did some really stupid stuff, and accidents happened. There's a terrible moment in it where Axel's head gets split open by one of the tables, and the doctor is literally stapling his head through the cage. Right? This is nuts. The night before, though, this is, a lot of people don't know this. The night before, we have this match. It's Sanity versus Undisputed Era, and we did a comedy spot. Right? This is rare, like that we would do comedy spots, but even more rare that they ever go wrong. Right? So the 3 of us take an Undisputed Era guy, we run them all into each other, big noggin knocker, right? Haha, big haha for the crowd, right? But somehow, right, Adam Cole gets split open. He got 13 stitches in the top of his head, right? The night before War Games. It is mental that this could possibly happen. And like, if you'd have seen the spot, right, there's no way on earth you'd have thought anybody got hurt. But somehow, not only did Adam get hurt badly. You know what I mean? So everything he did in that match, he did while suffering, probably from concussion, probably from, well, I think he passed the concussion test, but he definitely had, major stitches in the top of his head. Like, so, mad respect to him, because I remember the last time I got like stitches in the back of my head, like I was making a meal out of that. So he was, but he did a hell of a job. And then Axel, middle of the match, getting staple gun at the top of his head. But that's testament to everybody.
He's
put a hell of a shift in,
yeah.
And it was so much fun. The match itself was just so much fun. Like, and to this day, like one of the coolest experiences. It really was.
Yeah, another really cool experience, and I was fortunate enough to be in New Orleans 2018 WrestleMania weekend, and this incredible 6-man ladder match to crown the first ever NXT North American champion. Now, I'm going to bring up some pictures because I was so fortunate enough to be there, and this was the opening match of that night. Still to this day, one of my favourites, if not the best NXT takeover, and that's high praise considering every show was a banger and every single show kind of topped the next one. But that spot there, when you drive in, I'm not sure who threw the ladder. Ricochet's there as well. It's possibly Adam Cole. I'm not sure, but. One of my all-time favorite matches, not just because I was there, but because it was batshit crazy, and it was just fantastic. I don't think, like I say, you talk about Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon having classic ladder matches. That's 1v1, but when you got 6 guys in there, absolutely killing it. And you were part of it as well. Another great opportunity for yourself, another great moment. But take us back to that night, because I remember it vividly. But what about yourself?
It was so like. Again, another, I'm put into these. I think they just really like putting me in multi-man matches because I had a bunch, right? I did. I had a bunch, and I always have, cool ideas and stuff like that, whatever else, which is, the joys of being from the indies. You know what I mean? Like that is the truth. I really like 3-way dances and stuff like that. Like it's one of my favorite match types, right? So I think because I always had little ideas, like I would always shine in these kind of scenarios, so they kept putting me in them. But this one was very interesting because we had to debut 2 new people, EC3 and Ricochet. This was their debut. While also you've got Monster and Lars, Monster, myself, and then you've got Velveteen, and you've got Adam. And like Adam's, this incredible talented lad who's kind of getting, the pops, but still villain. Velveteen is the fella who everybody's, everybody knows that there's something special there.
Yeah.
But he's also, not sure if you're a babyface or a heel. So like, there's so many like things going all at the same time. So for us, we knew we had to work really hard to try and showcase everybody. But we all made a pact right before it, and this is something I'm really proud of. We said, right, we're not going to do the slow climb up the ladder, especially early in the match, because we hated it. We went and watched all the ladder matches that we could think of, separately, and even a couple together, like, to try and make sure that, like, we first of all respect what people have done before. Don't want to repeat anything that people have done, but we also don't want to make the same mistakes that people have done. That slow climb that people were doing.
Yeah,
I get it. You're waiting for the spot or anything else. We were like, right, how about this? You climb the ladder, nobody's there. You just fucking win the belt, right? So that put a new pressure on everybody to be there and be ready at all times. And there's some brilliant moments where somebody actually gets fucking really far up the ladder. You know what I mean? Like, obviously for me, I was never going to get up there fast, so it was very easy to stop me. But for some of the other lads, it'd be a bit harder. Yeah, there you go. So
I think you nearly, is that you there? I think you nearly get your hand on the belt there.
Oh yeah, that is me. But I think if I went one more rung up the ladder, I'd have fucking fallen off the damn thing. Right? I was about as close as I was going to get. Right, I'm okay on the first 3 rungs, but seeing that 4th, 5th, 6th rung, that's when it gets problematic for me. But no, honestly, like, there was a lot riding on that. We knew we had a lot to live up to. We were the opener of the entirety of WrestleMania, so like there was also a chip on our shoulder. Like, we were kind of thinking, how do we say follow that without saying follow that? You know what I mean? So,
100%,
so we made the pact. We'd all do that. We'd all fucking fly up that ladder. We tried to structure it so everybody looked good, and that's tough because there's 2 completely unestablished people. So we knew Ricochet's going to get over because he can do some cool stuff. But we also need to be cognizant, like, you can't do everything and then no sell anything, So we're trying to get that balance. And then EC3, is more known for being this incredible mic man. So you have to try, how do we make that work? So we try and make him smarmy or have moments for him and stuff like that. So we try to put all that together, and then we're able to try and keep the fact that Lars and I were kind of on and off feuding for a few months. So we're trying to have little bits in it, like even the bit where we're trying to one up each other and stuff like that. So there's some really cool moments, and we're just so happy that we got so much of that on the board, and that people realized afterwards, understood the stories we were trying to tell coming out of it. People understood what the psychology was, and the feedback we've had since has been mind blowing. We knew it was decent, when we were coming up with it, but we didn't know it was going to be as good as that. You know what I mean? That's the truth. But the crowd made it. The crowd just dug everything we did. They were there for every moment, every spot, every tiny look. I remember there's a bit where Lars and I are just throwing Ricochet around, and the crowd just comes up, and we have a stare off, and they go fucking nuts, and that, stuff like that. We didn't, you don't know, you don't know for sure what they're going to react to. So then we were able to do things on the fly and go with what they're digging, and that was what was really cool about all the talent that was there. Nobody panicked, everybody was in the moment, everybody enjoyed it. Yeah, that's a nuts photo. That was a terrible idea, but Ricochet was like, yeah, I'll take it. Okay. But yeah, honestly, all the lads, testament to all of them, they're all bloody brilliant. All wonderful to work with. And I know it's seen as the cursed match, but realistically, it was so much fun, and nobody was difficult. We had a few, obviously, 6 different people, 6 different opinions. We would have the occasional, whatever. Yeah. But the fact that we're still able to put that together, and the feedback we've got since was amazing. But yeah, great experience, great for me. Killian at that point was kind of, we knew we were about to get promoted, so we weren't sure how what we're going to do with Killian. So it was kind of stop start, what's next, because we know we're going up. So coming into that on off feud with Lars, finally we were able to look into paying that off. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a very, very cool experience, cool time, and that was a great show to be on. I think it was Johnny and Andrade was the big one, wasn't it? The main event.
So I think you had Johnny Gargano and Ciampa in their first grudge match, the unsanctioned match, and I think it was Andrade and Aleister Black, of course.
Aleister Black, yes, and that was incredible. So there was so many brilliant matches on that show, and I'm so glad you said you dug it, because 100%. I think every single one of us, at that point, NXT we're starting to really find our feet. Towards the end of 2017, we kind of knew what direction we wanted to go in.
Yeah. So
by 18, I think that's when the creativity really started coming through for all the lads and ladies. And that was just wonderful to be a part of. And as I say, the opening WrestleMania with that, that was awesome. That was wicked. And to get the crowd at the hottest possible point was wicked. So I look back and have very fond memories, and hopefully I never have to do another one.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Obviously, you got sent up to the main roster. There's yourself, Axel, and EY as part of the SmackDown crew. But it's been a lot of interest before going live tonight about yourself and Drake Maverick. How did you find the tag team of yourself and Drake, Rockstar Spud, in NXT? And was it something that you enjoyed? So obviously there's some pictures of yourself and Spud there, or Drake. But let's just bring up that picture again. I think that's the Halloween Havoc version there, as the Hollywood Hogan, whatever he was trying to do. But take us back to that, because that was a really fun time. 2 dynamics, 2 different individuals, and it was kind of a bit of a love-hate relationship you had with Drake Maverick there. And the whole kind of entrance music that wasn't your cup of tea, but it kind of worked. And personally, I felt it could have gone longer. It could have gone further. It could have done more with you guys. I really would have liked to have seen you 2 challenge for the tag titles. That didn't quite happen, to the best of my memories. But a lot that resonated with a lot of people. Obviously, Rockstar Spud, very popular over here in England and Europe. Yourself also. So obviously a bit of a home team there for us Brits. But what are your memories? And obviously a lot of fun for the fans, but some good times as well.
Oh, he's a bloody fucking nuisance, right? I've known him 15 years, right? And he is my friend, I think, right? But I do fucking, there's times he does my utter head in, right? So you get to see that on screen. Like that was about as close to reality as we could ever get, right? I still sometimes, we're in a couple of text groups together, and we sometimes see each other, right? And when we see each other, like most of my time I'll spend like this talking to him. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. So that is literally my relationship with him, right? And the fact that they put that on screen blew my mind. Like, I originally thought it was a rib, thought it was a fucking rib, right? When they said we're going to, I was like, because I was meant to do something with somebody else, like it got changed last minute, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And then they were like, listen, we've got this idea, and it's coming from the top, and I'm like, oh, for Christ, what does he mean? And that's what they went for. They went me and Drake. We, honest to God, like, it was a lot of fun. You know, like, we had this really cool moment where he's getting his ass kicked, and like Regal's like trying to tell me I have to go out and help him. And I quite liked like playing off these. You know, I didn't want to be his tag team partner. I'm sitting. They show me sitting backstage, laughing at him getting his ass kicked, and Regal storms in. He's like, "What are you doing? That's your partner." I'm like, "What do you mean it's my partner? I didn't ask for him," you know. And then I have to go out and help him. And then, you know, the crowd really came with us and really got into it. We were derailed, actually. Like, you know, you're talking about you hope for championship matches. We actually got derailed by COVID. I got COVID at the end of was it 2020? I think I got COVID at the end of 2020. Then he got COVID. About 2 months later, we were rolling again. So we missed two major matches that were meant to be really like integral to stories. And then, you know, like, that's what happens. You know, with live television, they have to change the story and move on. So we got a little bit unlucky with that stuff, but like we had so much fun. The crowd really took to us. When I got released, we were literally meant to do. The story was meant to continue. Like, I literally got told my creative for that Tuesday, the day I got released. So I got released on the Friday, and I got told that day what I was doing that following Tuesday. So the writers and stuff like that had no idea that was the end. So we were meant to go on and continue doing more. So it was just a shame the way it works out. But he was a lot of fun to work with, and also a nightmare to work with. So I need you to know both sides of that. But yeah, it was. I'm glad the fans really dug it. It was great for me because, you know, when I first went into Sanity, like, Triple H wanted me to be stoic, so I had to be like kind of almost expressionless. And then later I was allowed to show a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. But you know, on the indies, you know, I can do whatever I want. I can be a tough guy, or I can talk, I can do comedy, I can do whatever, right? Whereas, you know, this character never really got to show a range, you know. So this was the first time I got to show that range a little bit, you know what I mean? And like, even him wearing the same gear as me was really fucking funny. Like, we had some really funny days, and there's this really funny one. I didn't know they had a Killian Dane flag, right? Because they never needed it. They never needed a Killian Dane. Like, you know, they have the big flags. They'll have guys in their locker room. But they had a Killian Dane one. I didn't even know. They've had it for years, apparently, right? But they put it up, and then he put up a little sign for Drake Maverick, and it was like the stuff that was making me laugh for real is what we then got to do on screen. And we had this really funny one where he puts the Shockmaster helmet on and stuff like that. And like, one of the funny parts is the original writing was they wanted me to do the Shockmaster helmet on me, and I would trip and fall over. And like, our worry was, if I become funny, if I become like a silly goose character, it'll take away from the act. And so we actually just said to Hunter, got an idea? What do you think about this? If I take the fucking mask off, put it, and he puts it on, he fucking falls over. Because the worry is, if I become the silly goose, then it'll change the dynamic. Like, if we're both funny, then neither of us are funny. That's what my worry was. Me being the straight man kind of plays into what you know suits him and his batshit ways, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And Hunter immediately was like, "Yeah, you're right. Like, thanks so much for bringing this to us. You know, to be blah blah blah." So this is one of the cool things about working with. And like, that was not an issue, by the way, in any way. You know, it was like a minor query by me, and immediately, you know, decided by Hunter. So that was one of the cool things about working with him. He was very amenable to you know, as long as you had a decent solution, you know what I mean. Like, he was very, very open to talking. Because our worry was, if I suddenly became funny, you know, where do we go over there? You know, what, like, how do we play that off? You know, it was like Hurricane and Rosie kind of worked, because Hurricane, while goofy, you know, Rosie was still the tough guy, but then when Rosie started becoming more and more silly, it kind of took away, you know. So that was kind of one of our worries. We didn't really want it to go in that direction, you know. But thankfully, you know, they listened and they went with that. So it meant we could continue on with the dynamic, because the sillier he was, the better, you know what I mean. And like, the stuff he came out with, because then when he was getting his ass kicked, and then he could, you know, I'm telling him to fight back, and when he does fight back, like, people are really behind him. And I'm like,
Exactly.
that story. That's what you want in a story. That's what you want in a movie. That's what you want in anything you're doing. You know what I mean? So, and he was so good in that role. Like, he genuinely, right, was in pain, right, because he's been wrestling for 20 years. So anytime anybody touches him, he's in agony anyway. So he's getting to showcase that on screen. So
yeah, and I think that's why the fans wanted a payoff, Damo. They wanted a payoff. They wanted to see, the conclusion to that. And unfortunately, we didn't get that. But let's go to some quick fire questions before we wrap this up. Isaac Wide is watching us via YouTube. Thank you, Isaac, for getting in touch. Who would be your dream match to work with, Damo? Have you got? We've spoken about some incredible talent, Will Ospreay, and so many awesome talents. But anybody you haven't been in the ring with that you'd like to?
So I've only fought AJ Styles in multi-man matches. I've never fought him in singles. So obviously him. From the retired point of view, it would be Shawn Michaels. It would be Fit Finlay. For two widely different reasons. Vader, Bam Bam, you know what I mean? Trying to think. Daniel Bryan, I only ever worked in a multi-man as well. Geez, I'd love to have get in there with him. Hangman Page, not another one of those ones who just really came up in the last while, who's been wicked this last few years. But yeah, there's so many kicking around. Like, absolutely, I just had a dream match the other week with Will Ospreay. You know what I mean? That was incredible. So more of that, please. That'd be fantastic. But honestly, the coolest thing about right now is there's just so many opportunities. And everything changes. I never thought in a million years. In 2015, I wrestled like Tanahashi and Nakamura, like a month after the G1 Climax final, where they had one of the best matches of their storied rivalry. And I wrestled them both in one weekend. So that's how you're like, anything can happen. Dude, like, it was amazing. Another one, like, I always wanted to wrestle Finn Balor. Like, he was so important for my different parts of my career. He's a low-key hero of mine. I've told him many times, but like, he's one of the ones I'd love to have get in there to wrestle. I think with our dynamic and stuff would have been pretty cool. But yeah, there's just so many. But honestly, like, for me personally, like, I've more than achieved when it comes to dream matches and stuff like that. I've overachieved really with that stuff. So honestly, at this point, like, anything now is a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. Darren Ewan's been in touch. Would you like to compete for New Japan more in the future? So I know you've had a couple of matches at their LA dojo, certainly over in the States, and I think you made a big impact there. I think one match was against Darren Young, Fred Rosser. But any more plans, or okay, the simple question is, would you like to?
I'd definitely be open to it. I've always wanted to go to Japan. Like, I've been unlucky. Like, anytime it was meant to happen, something else happened. That's been my major issue. I had that with Mexico last summer as well. I've just had at the last minute something happens and you're like, fuck. So if it happens, great. If it doesn't, well, that's okay too. I've been very blessed. I've wrestled like most of the roster, so I've been very lucky regardless. But no, it'd be very cool. Like, we've got a really good relationship myself with the New Japan lads, and if something comes, then happy days. But trust me on this. Like, right now, I'm not going anywhere. I'm loving what I'm doing.
Absolutely. And Richie, good friend of the show, big fan of yours. If Progress had a War Games style match, who would be your last two picks with yourself and Axel? Who would be your side by your side? So yourself, Axel, maybe two more picks from the Progress roster. If they were to do a War Games style match.
That's cool. That is very cool. There'd be so many I would choose, but I think I'd go with Sunshine Machine.
Yeah.
I think they're my boys. I think that'd be fun. But like, honestly, there maybe be 30 people I could choose on that bloody roster, and they're also bloody talented. So yeah, I'll go with Sunshine Machine. They're the boys.
Absolutely. And Damo, it's been absolutely awesome speaking to you for an hour and 45 now. Time has absolutely flown. We've had a ton of viewers and a ton of questions. But before we say goodbye, where can we reach out to you? So if any of my fans, listeners, any of your followers want to get in touch, say hi. And I do have a little ticker, which I'll bring up along the bottom of the screen. But where can they reach out to you, say hi, support you and support what you're doing? Absolutely.
Like, literally what you just put in there, at Damo Mackle on Instagram and Twitter. I'll update my calendar for the next while, but if you're based in the UK, I'm there quite a lot for the next couple of months, so I'm going to do my very best to try and hit as many cities as I can. So I promise I'll be there, and I'll do my very best to get out there after shows so you can come and see me as well. But yes, at Damo Mackle. You can also get me on Linktree, which is linktr.ee/Damo Mackle, and that has all the links for what I'm up to as well. But yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to getting back to the UK. I think I'm only in Orlando here for about a week, and then I'm back for OTT, and then I'm back for RevPro. Just got announced that I'm doing the RevPro Rumble, the Revolution Rumble. And then I'll be back again later in April for ICW Progress and so much more. So keep an eye out on the social media, and I'll do my very best to keep everybody up to date with what I'm doing. But thank you so much, everybody who's listened today. It's been a long ramble. I'm a big rambler. So John, you did a good job keeping me. You shepherded me, as best as you could. So
I'm a pro.
Good sheepdog there.
But Damo, it's been awesome catching up with you. Awesome hearing your story and your journey. I really, really have appreciated it. It's been well received, and like I say, all of my listeners have been looking forward to this one for sure. But we'll see you at the Electric Ballroom very, very soon. But take care, Big Damo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers, boys.